We're not tired of rookie content. We know you're not either. So I brought on Matt Olson for 32 Beat Writers, and we're going to talk about 6 prospects, their landing spots, and if you should be drafting them in your rookie drafts, or more importantly, our Origins tournament that is over 50% full right now here on the Fast Draft Pod. All right, Matt, thank you for joining me. Like I said, man, I've been hitting the rookies hard. I don't care. We're full season. We're getting close to the draft. If you guys are tired of rookies, you're not a sicko. You're not a sicko and you need to get with the program here. You guys just did a 3-round mock. More importantly, I always joke, you guys have real info. You're not the guy that's like, I've watched the Jets for 6 years and I know exactly what they're going to do. You're actually in them trenches, dog. And you got a spicy one here. Everyone's favorite 101, Ashton Jeanty. When and where do you have him going?
So I'll prerequisite this with saying that we have a great draft and prospect guy, TJ Winger, that does all of this for us. And we are stealing a little bit of his data here to have some fun. And TJ actually mocked him 10th overall to the Bears, which is awesome. I mean, I feel like this is going to turn into a Caleb Williams conversation, but just seeing the Bears restructuring their offensive line, making a move at center, bringing in someone to take a little bit of relief. I think they all wanted DeAndre Swift last year to be the guy there. And, I think in fantasy, if we're going to go down that road for a minute here, like everyone thought there was going to be a large success there. I remember we were talking to Courtney Cronin very early on in the offseason last year about what her thoughts were on that free agent pickup. And she was all about, Swift and his ability to catch out of the backfield. Well, you're bringing in a guy who can probably do it better, who's younger, with a better offensive line. And I just think this is a no-brainer. You mentioned it. Like, this is probably going to be the 1-1, right, this year. And every dynasty, rookie, any scenario. I honestly don't know a spot he would go to that he wouldn't be. We've seen him mock to, the Raiders a couple times, which I guess would give me pause. But the Bears I love. What are your thoughts there?
I like it better because I'm one of those people who mock the Raiders there. To joke, I've watched the Raiders for so many years. They would totally draft a running back too early. So that's what I did. And kind of going with Pete Carroll's tendency of liking running backs. Now, if Ashton Jeanty would go to the Bears at 110, I'm not just saying he's the Dynasty 101. If you're in single QB redraft, you have to consider him for the 101 at that point as well. You can't think of a better spot. When you think of competition, Quinshon Judkins, we know what he is. He's a guy who can pass block a little bit, and he's not going to fumble the ball if you need him to relieve someone like Ashton Jeanty, who should be getting 25 touches a game. And like you said, Swift can catch a few passes, but Jeanty can actually run the football. That was always Swift's problem. It's not that he wasn't flashy and could make a guy miss in the open field, but we've seen team after team always have to pair him with the superior runner. So, buddy, when you tell me that Jeanty could go to the Bears, that's exciting. Is there actual steam for this? It's not that if the Bears like him, of course they like them,
right? But
do they think they're in position to take a luxury pick now?
I mean, you have to imagine so. They've done the right as much as they could have. They've done the right things in free agency, right? And you have to look at it as you're not only investing in this, kind of tie this conversation all back, but you're not only investing in a running back, you're investing in your offense overall and relieving your quarterback from having to do too much. And last year we saw Caleb Williams try to do too much too regularly. And I think this is a pick that helps the offense across the board. And more importantly, and to your point, the team as a whole. The defense was on the field a lot last year for the Bears. And I didn't think I don't think at the start of the year anyone would have thought that was the case. And it got really ugly in Chicago quicker than anyone realized. You could look at it as a luxury pick or you could look at it as a team pick. I think there's an argument both ways. But for fantasy football, It's a rock solid pick.
Yep. The joke around here, it's a copycat league. I think some people are going to look at what the Eagles did. They're like, man, they made Jalen Hurts' job real easy when you give him Saquon Barkley. And on this channel, while I'm running it, I'm not going to have the Jalen Hurts disrespect. The Super Bowl proved that he could throw the ball, but when you have Saquon Barkley, use him, guys.
Gotta respect him.
Yeah, exactly. Respect him. I don't think anyone on that offense was just like, yeah, like it sucks that the Saquon guy's getting a touch, like, and if they are, they're not, like, they're pretty selfish. And I think the Bears could put, like you said, they could put their rookie QB in a position to succeed. And we know I'm not a numbers nerd here, but we know that if you have a good running game, it makes your passing game a little bit more efficient. I'm not one of those established run guys, but dang, is it really easier to run an offense when you don't have DeAndre Swift running to the back of his guard every play?
It was ugly there for a little bit, and that's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, and dude, I was the biggest DeAndre Swift fan, and to see all my co-hosts and homies, like, I'd get a text as soon as DeAndre Swift did some DeAndre Swift stuff. They're like, Jags, you see your boy? And I'm like, okay, I was wrong. I loved him. Right. I loved his film. Like, I'll take the L. Next, we're going to move over to wide receiver. And then when you had me put this on the list, I got excited. It is Matthew Golden. When and where do you have him going?
Yeah, so TJ had him going at 23rd overall to the Green Bay Packers, which I think, that means that Josh Jacobs is going to be a very excited man potentially. I feel like the one thing that is missing on the Packers is that true burner speed. And what's weird too is the lack of utilization that Reed saw down the stretch last year, and in general, he went from someone that was consistent to someone that wasn't. We saw the Christian Watson fall off. Like, it's a really, really, really strange wide receiver group over there in Green Bay. But I think when you add a guy into the mix like this, one, it allows Green Bay to purge some of that, let's call it C+ level talent that might be a wide receiver 3 on another team. But it's, these Bo Melton guys who are perfectly fine wide receivers and probably could produce those kind of 600-yard, 3-touchdown years elsewhere. But Green Bay keeps them around because, they run that offense where Jordan Love's throwing the ball everywhere. Again, though, we saw the glimpse of what could be with a number 1 wide receiver in that on that team when Christian Watson was balling out 2 years ago when he had hamstrings. Unfortunately,
way back when.
Yeah, I don't want to date ourselves here, but way back when Christian Watson had hamstrings, it was fun in Green Bay from a fantasy standpoint, and it was more consistent. I'm not saying Matthew Golden's going to go in there and be, put up that level of consistency because it was, or efficiency even. It was unheard of, but I do think it gives them a true field stretcher. Someone to, open up those intermediate routes, someone to get those tight ends more involved that they invested in. Are they still going to spread the ball around a ton? Yeah, it's working. Why are you going to fix it? But I do think it's interesting for them to go after a true or potential true wide receiver 1 in the draft.
Yeah, and you made I'm gonna call you out a little bit. You made an interesting comment before we hit record. You said he's a wide receiver 2 among other wide receiver 2s. Do you actually think that this is a good pick? Like, I think it's a good pick. I see what the other scouts are seeing with Matthew Golden, but the consistency thing, and I'm not trying to sound like a data nerd, we just don't have a lot of volume. There are some questions about that. Do you think he can actually be the one, or do you think he's just a different function that could stay on the field like Christian Watson?
I think let's look at it this way. He's not a very physical wide receiver, so that's going to have to change in the NFL, right? He's got to be able to break free on a press release. He's got to be able to, put in the extra effort to stay on the field when he has to block, or he becomes immediately one-dimensional. And I think that would probably be the biggest fear, right? You draft this guy, he can't be on the field for plays that aren't drawn up for him. So we know when he's on the field, there's a good chance the ball is going to him. To answer your question, if I was gun to my head, I would say he ends up being a wide receiver 2 instead of a wide receiver 1. A perfectly fine wide receiver 2, something like that. Man, I can't even believe I'm going to say this right now on April 4th of the year. But, he could be that 705 guy. But you know what? If that's the case, guess what? Everyone else in this offense is a 705 guy as well. So he's just going to detract from all the other wide receivers already on this. So, if that's Reed, if that's Watson, if that's, hell, maybe Musgrave comes out. There's just so many names in Green Bay that want the ball or you hear getting the ball. He's going to have to do something electrifying to get above that threshold, at least in the short term.
Interesting. That makes his, if you look at, I guess, his dynasty value. I'm in a startup right now, and I wanted him to be my wide receiver 4-ish.
Okay.
And and he got taken ahead of it, and I thought it might be a little bit early. He got taken ahead of Zay Flowers. And I found myself in this draft where I'm like, are we getting a little ahead of ourselves on some of these rookies?
Yes.
Zay Flowers is an established player that's good. The Ravens like him, and he is their top target. It's Bateman will have a flash. I don't think Mark Andrews is cooked, but you definitely made me not feel so bad that I didn't get Matthew Golden, just because you're right. I've done the tape on him, and the physicality part is correct. And what's interesting about Green Bay's offense is they like physical receivers who can block and get to places on time. And that means being physical sometimes. So that you definitely made me damper a little bit of my expectations. And to consider where he's going in our Fast Draft Origins tournament, actually it seems a little bit more reasonable. It seems like the regular folks, he's going the top of the third or second round. He's the 14th player. That makes sense. He's going behind Tyler Warren. I think we're ridiculous about Travis Hunter as a community. I'm actually going to throw a curveball on you.
Go ahead.
And I'm gonna throw this on the sheet randomly because I didn't expect it. Where's the community at of what you've heard with Travis Hunter? Because from different beat reporters, we're like, teams think he's a cornerback. So and so thinks he's a wide receiver. Matt Harmon just had the reception perception profile on him. The tape and the numbers match. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the class. I don't get it.
I think a bigger part of this is if you look at the top half of the draft, right, where we've seen, Travis Hunter go, right? And regardless of the mock, right? It's Tennessee, or I guess Tennessee's kind of out on it now at this point, but it's Cleveland, the Pats, and there's obviously one other team that's slipping my mind at the top of the draft. Who's the third team up there?
Giants.
The Giants, right? Let's look at all those teams. What don't they need? A cornerback. What do they need? A wide receiver. Travis Hunter is going to one of those teams. Unless someone makes a massive move to move up for him. So, at this point in time, and from everything we've seen, obviously not being able to say the letter I and not, being a Pats fan, the beat has been on, hey, if Travis Hunter comes here, it would be an outrage to not use him as a wide receiver.
Thank you. That's all. That's all I need to say. We don't even spend any more time on it because I've literally told everyone. I'm like, do you see the Patriots wide receiver room? Quinshon Judkins is our wide receiver 1 right now. Well, we got Diggs. Diggs is a high end wide receiver 2 at this point in his career.
If we're lucky,
and that's even if we're lucky, and he wants to be there.
Well, there's that, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a whole other thing, and we know who Calvin Ridley is. It's just if you're gonna let Drake May struggle, it's Travis Hunter, this guy's a cornerback, just get out of here. All right, back on schedule. I just had to confirm my own bias. Quinshon Judkins, he's someone I haven't talked enough on this podcast. Okay. He's one of my favorite values. Right now he's number 7 in our Origins tournament. I tried to trade the house for him because I got sniped in a dynasty startup. I think he has one of the best spots or best places to get a good landing spot. Where do you have him going? When do you have him going?
So we alluded to this earlier, in terms of talking about this team, but TJ had him going to the Raiders at the top of the second round, 5th pick. And I think, if we talk about the Twitter space, right? We see all different things on Judkins. Oh, he's got this amazing balance. He doesn't get tripped up. He can find the hole. He's patient. And then you get the knock that, well, he plods and he's slow and he's, that whole thing. And I'm just, I want to believe we're somewhere in the middle, right? Like, everyone comes in with pass protection questions, right? Like how often
out of Ohio State, they're one of the best pass blockers I graded.
I mean,
both of them.
It's just interesting. Like, I feel like every rookie is guilty until innocent when it comes to pass blocking, right? Like, if you're moderately okay by some scout standard, then you're an A+++ in the draft, because that's how lopsided that scenario is. So I guess this is my PSA to take, hey, this guy's not good in pass coverage. He's not going to get on the field, with a little bit of a grain of salt, because we've seen in training camps that turn around almost immediately. But going back to Judkins, so he lands with the Raiders, the 32 beat writer team's going to laugh at me when I say this, but I was a big McCormick fan at the end of last year because he took me to greatness. But is he an RB1 on an NFL team? Probably not. So you have Judkins coming in with a basically completely rebuilt offense. Really, I guess, minus, the wide receiver setup. You still get some carryover, and you got Myers, you got Bowers. Why not continue to get young? Why not? I know Geno Smith's not on the young train, but a great, perfectly fine bridge QB that can open the running lanes. I mean, I think he's shown that he's more than capable of, pushing a team down the field regularly, and that could be a great opportunity for Judkins to slide right in. The Raiders' offensive line's about middle of the pack. You're not crying about it. You're not cheering about it. But, for a rookie running back who, again, can fight through contact and his balance is pretty damn good, when you have a mid-tier offensive line, that's one of the best traits you can have. It means he can take that bump. He can roll off of a blocker or a defender and get upfield. Yeah, is he going to burn the whole team once he gets going? Probably not. But is he going to move the ball? Is he going to be consistent? Is he going to surprise some people this year? Yeah, I think that's where you're going earlier, and I agree.
Yeah, and it's a full disclosure, if you're new to Fast Draft and me, but if you came over from Football Guys, I have been I was a football guy, like scout, rookie guy, entire season. I've watched so much Ohio State tape. I've watched every single game of theirs. I've charted and graded them all. I remember one report I've said you can really tell what teams focus on within their coaching. Because like you said, with stuff like pass blocking, sometimes these college teams just don't care about that with their running backs. So they're not coached up on that. I think Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins are the best pass blockers without question. Like it's not even particularly close for me. Like I have questions about Jeanty, but like then I go back to what you said. I don't care that much. Like Jeanty's just like so good at so many other things that maybe you shouldn't have him blocking that often anyway. So it's crazy when we get this far. Like you mentioned, it's April 4th.
Mm-hmm.
The narratives that like And like we talked about, like especially when you work full time in this business like we do, you focus on the business and the stuff. And then when you go to like Twitter and them trenches, you're like, what are you guys talking about?
Oh, it's insane.
I know. It's like
people are bored. That's really what it is.
Yeah,
people are bored, so they make stuff up.
Yeah, one guy will say something and then everyone's like, you know what? Those 4 plays I saw, I see it too. And it's just crazy. So like Judkins to the Raiders would be the ultimate team building thing because it gives them – like Hunter probably won't be there, but maybe they get Tet there. Mm-hmm. And then you have Tet, Myers, Bowers, and then they can get Judkins later. I don't know if Shadir is off the table or not. Pete Carroll's a guy who's like, and again, you're the beat reporter, so let me know if I'm off on this. He's not a poker player, I don't think. I felt like Pete Carroll's like, go get me Geno. He's my guy. I wanted him. He's the reason why I let Russ go. And that was a pretty good deal. And then he read on Twitter some intern was like, yeah, some people say like, yeah, we might be getting Sanders because Geno is just a bridge guy. And then he went up to the GM. He's like, sign an extension. I want to double down.
Right?
Yeah. I feel like Geno's the guy. So I think Tet is not out of the question here at this point. And the Shadur Sanders slide seems real at this point. Like it seems like it could happen.
I always am all over the place with that. I don't know how I feel about him going there if it does end up there. I don't know how high I am on Sanders in general. I personally tend to lean that he is a significantly lower grade than he actually, is going to get drafted at. And I might be in the minority there. People might think that he is going to be perfectly fine because he's accurate and whatnot, but he doesn't excite me. And maybe that's just a personal take, but I'm just not excited by Sanders.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you're obviously not alone. Like most cases, QBs, especially with first round value, they're like automatically a top 5 prospect for most. And like Sanders has not crept into the top 10 on anyone that I know's mock. We're about to get the beast soon from Brugler. I can almost promise you he's not going to be top. Like I think he might be one of the bigger surprises. To keep it moving, I thought this was hilarious. We all know that Matt obviously is a Pats fan. Little known fact, I too am a Patriots fan. So spoilers, Camp Skattebo, where do you have him going?
I mean, if this isn't the most Patriot, like, I love TJ. So for those who don't know TJ, he lives in Richmond, Virginia. Like, he has no alliance to this, but like, damn, if there's a guy who is destined to be a Patriot, it's Cam. Like, it just, I don't want to, like, I just don't know how else to say it. The guy has Patriots written on him. He's got that, professional attitude. He seems like he's the best locker room player. If that was if it was charted, right? Cam Skattebo would be number 1 on that ranking. What I think is interesting is we've heard recently that the Pats are in the market to bring in a running back through the draft. Those rumors have been swirling in Foxborough, and we've seen it across several beat writers saying that. And when you look at when you look at the setup of the team and you look at the running back setup in particular, those fumbling issues last year were a mess. When Antonio Gibson is threatening to become your number 1 running back because he's holding on to the ball slightly better, you have a running back problem. And it's going to be interesting how that shakes out during camp. And I guarantee you, Vrabel is going to preach ball security, ball security, ball security. And we know Skattebo has grizzly bear arms. You almost can't even see the ball when he holds it. And I want to believe that's going to translate. I mean, everyone fumbles, right? Like we got to go beyond that. But I do feel like for the system, for what Vrabel is trying to accomplish, I feel like he is that kind of guy. He's a clogger. He's going to put his head down. Again, does he have a ton of fumbles in his career? Yeah, I think he has. I think he has 11 in college.
Oh, really?
11? Yeah.
That's not nothing.
No, it's not. He does have his own ball security issues, but I think it's one that can be solved fairly with some proper coaching, with some proper scenarios, because he does have a death grip. It's just, I think he gets a little loose with it from what I've seen on tape. So if he bears down, puts his head down, and he's going for those, this guy's never, just like Judkins, he's never going to burn people down the field. We always hear like the Mike Allstott. For everyone who's, 30 or older out there might remember Mike Allstott. Or Marion Barber was another good one. Like
David Montgomery. David
Montgomery.
They burned the Sam 40 if you really think about it.
No, you're right. Like there's production in this model, I guess is the bigger point, right? So I think that it's an interesting scenario. He can catch the ball, which is also fun. Help strike May out a little, which he needs. Again, I think they thought It's here, right? Here's the line of progression. It's like we loved having James White. Then we're like, hey, let's go find James White again. And we found Antonio Gibson, and then that didn't work. And now it's like, let's go find this, thick white guy to go catch balls out of the backfield and put him in New England. And I'm like, well, Danny Woodhead worked for a hot minute there, although a completely different skill set. But nonetheless, he just seems like a guy who would fit on the Patriots, be able to put his head down, gain yardage. And that's what Vrabel's going to want to do, grind out games. I hate to say that. We're going to be so boring as a team to watch. Our defense is pretty damn good. There's going to be so many 17-14 games, so don't expect a ton of fantasy points. But he's going to be a good football player, and that's why he lands there. So if we do tie this all in fantasy-wise, are you getting a gift? Probably not. Where do you guys have him currently ranked in the Origins draft? I'd be curious on this.
Cam Skattebo 20.
20th.
Yeah, after Colston Loveland. Ollie Gordon is like 16. I don't understand why Ollie Gordon is so high. I don't get it. It's like if you hate Cam Skattebo, like what excites you about Ollie Gordon? But
yeah, I mean it's interesting. I guess when you look at the guys around him, he probably is right where he needs to be because you will get small production. You're just not going to get a ton of production. This is not going to be 1,000-yard rusher probably ever in his NFL career. I'm going on tape saying that. He will never rush for 1,000 yards, and I don't think anyone would be surprised by that statement.
And it's knowing how, and again, I don't want to make the joke, but these predictable teams where you just kind of just know that Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniel, they kind of got the band back together. Like we just know what they're going to do. And it's like you said, man, like I like Drake May a lot. I think he's going to put up Ryan Tannehill passing numbers with that added rushing, which is great for fantasy on there. But it's like you said, if they can run the ball, they're going to run the ball. And with that, we do know that Josh McDaniels likes using multiple backs and that receiving profile from Cam Skattebo. A lot of people are like, Ramondre Stevenson could catch the ball. Ramondre Stevenson could catch the heck out of a dump off.
Yep.
Guys, like that's what it is like, we're going to dump it off and we're going to let you rumble as far as you can. It wasn't actual receiving work downfield. Cam Skattebo, he'll run this like one. I can't remember the play. He ran an angle route, shook the linebacker, then one-handed snagged something in the field. And I'm like, okay, I got to give credit.
Yeah.
I can only hate this kid so much. So it makes a lot of sense. And Ramondre, I mean, we've already known he's been on the hot seat. He's already been there. Next, we're going to go to tight end. I used to be a Harold Fannin guy, and then the combine happened, and then I came crashing back.
I'm still a Harold Fannin guy. I'm
just quieter about it.
I'll agree. I'm with you there. The drum was beating pretty hard there for a while. I think my teammates were starting to get sick of me saying it. And then TJ one day, basically brought me down to earth. I saw one of his mocks, and I'm like, well, dude, where's Harold? And it was right before the combine. And he's like, I don't know, man. He's like, we got to see what he does at the combine. And then sure enough, he wasn't in the next mock draft.
Get ready to speak day 3, buddy. It's
sad.
But now I'm a Mason Taylor guy.
There you go.
I've always been, he's so underrated, man. I had Dave Kluge on, and we joke I think he has 80% exposure on Mason Taylor. Now I have to scroll so far to get down to him because he's always available within the 4th round. I probably overdrafted him in a rookie draft right now. You guys have him going when and where?
So we have him going to the Jets at the top of the 3rd round, 9th overall pick, which I think long-term is a great scenario. Once Justin Fields. Although I would love to see what Jordan Travis can do on the football field. I think it gives Justin Fields a person to build with. Now, I will say that I do like Jeremy Ruckert more than probably most people. So this is going to be a scenario where if Mason Taylor does go there, I do think you can't expect immediate ROI on that pick. It's just, listen, Sam Laporta was a fluke, right? Like Kyle Pitts' first year clearly was a fluke. We all said last year it was or 2 years ago it was because of coaching, and then this year happened. Do I still think that Kyle Pitts is a great athlete in a better situation, could be a viable football player, fantasy football player? Yes. I'm more on the side of I got to see it to believe it again than I'm on the side of he's a great fantasy football player. Regardless, I do think that Mason Taylor does eclipse Ruckert. I just don't think it's going to be year one. I think you're going to have one of those ugly 400 or less even, 403 kind of seasons. There's a lot going on in that organization. Again, long term, I think it's a great pick. If we're talking dynasty league, I'm all in. If I'm talking origins and I got to get it this year, I'm a little skeptical. Maybe he ends up being a red zone, end zone guy for Justin Fields. I based off of everything that we were looking at last year in camp, we thought that Pat Freiermuth was going to play that role a little bit more than he did, and he didn't. Now, if that was more Tomlin's scheme scenario or Fields, it's always tough to tell, right? But
that's Arthur Smith. He's like,
I wasn't going to bring up the name of death.
It's like we know who that is.
That is very, very, very fair. That guy is a fantasy plague of existence. But going back to Mason Taylor, if they don't expect him to block, which I do think there are blocking issues with Mason Taylor, if that is not going to be his scenario and he's going to play, he's not going to play in line regularly and they're going to move him out, so be it. I think Mason Taylor can be he gets a little bit of a bump. If we see him lining up in line at all, it's going to be ugly. Like, I would question everyone on the coaching staff. To me, he doesn't have that skill set. I feel like you might disagree with me. You might agree with me. I don't know. I can't read you right now. Where's your head at?
You broke my heart, dog. This is like the only thing you said that I disagree with. I was just like, what? Because I wouldn't say like blocking issues, because like you said multiple things that shot. You said that Sam Laporta was a fluke, and I was just like,
in the scheme of the rookie tight ends being successful.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Sorry, no, he's a very good football player.
Okay. There we go. So now I can move forward. Mason Taylor, I think he's a better receiver than Sam Laporta is, but he's not the blocker like you said. And I didn't see much of the blocking issues that you have seen. But again, I've been more in the best ball trenches and less in the prospect here going forward. So that was just interesting to say, and I'm not going to lie, it just hurt my heart.
Tight end.
I do agree. I do agree with where I agree with you is that like if he goes to the Jets, I think it's nice and I like it for Fields in long term, but right away I worry because and granted, my buddy Jeff Bell over at Football Guys, he take this with the greatest salt, love him to death. He is an Ohio State guy. Okay. But he's just
love Jeff as well.
Yeah. He's just like, well, I really think they want to do the Ohio State thing and then keep, Fields, Ruckert, and Wilson and make that thing. I'm like, where does Ruckert fit into that? And like, why? And I just don't think Ruckert's that good where you need to be making decisions like that going forward. So like the fit I like for Taylor, because Tyler Conklin was like just doing way too much, like just eating way too many targets for being Tyler Conklin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But like you said, long-term in Origins tournaments, me and anyone or whoever's playing out there, even in fantasy in dynasty, that's where I have him in, to expect a lot of him year one might be disappointed. Next, and I don't love this, just because I don't love the player, we're going to finish on a running back. Dylan Sampson, where is he going? When is he going?
So he's going to the Houston Texans in the 3rd round, 25th overall. I like this for one big reason. Joe Mixon is not going to be there long term. At least I don't think so. I think once his contract is up, he's gone, which I believe is pretty soon. They have an out, right, after this year. Yeah, they have an out after this year with only $2 million dead cap money. You have no one behind him currently. I had high hopes of Damian Pierce when he first came into the league. It was very exciting. Mm-hmm. Looked like he knew what he was doing, and then I don't know what happened. The wheels fell off, and here we are. We talked about fumbling issues. We saw Dylan Sampson have fumbling issues all throughout college. I unfortunately got to watch some of them firsthand as a UT season ticket holder. But as an overall player, I think there's enough juice that it's worth the squeeze at this point of the draft. I mean, it's basically a 4th round pick at the end of the 3rd round. Like you're going after guys. I like to think if you're a team, and people say this, but I don't know how true it is. But in day 3, it's just get your guy.
Yeah.
It's not value.
The board changes.
Yeah, it's your best available versus consensus best available. So I think this is a insurance policy, and it's a scenario where you don't have anyone necessarily behind Mixon. And damn, we saw Mixon on the field a lot last year. Like more than I ever would have thought he was on the field last year. I just don't think you can do that again. You need someone to be able to supplement him a little. And I think Dylan Sampson is a great guy to fit that mold. And he could follow in the historic footsteps of another University of Tennessee, Houston Texan, great running back. You know who that is? Arian Foster.
Arian Foster. There you go. Yeah, I was about to say. I was like, Montario Hardesty. I was like, going down
the list. You're like, Matt's on drugs. We got to end this podcast.
Yeah, I forget Arian Foster was like a volunteer just because he was such a vastly better NFL player.
I mean, immensely better NFL player, right? Yeah. And obviously there's no correlation in terms of that happening, but it is interesting to see what that backfield looks like currently, mixing in his age and his contract, and then getting someone who did have immense production last year in the SEC, which, we've obviously talked, people are either Ohio State people, they're Big Ten people, they're SEC people. If someone's coming out of either like big conference, I'm not even going to say Power 5 because that's dead, right? Mm-hmm. If you're coming out of one of the 2 major conferences and you've been productive, there has to be some reason why. Now, I'm not saying it's going to translate into the NFL because we know it doesn't all the time. But I want to think you're slightly ahead of your peers from a competitive standpoint and from who you're facing each week and who's hitting you and who's the defenses that are lining up against you. So I do think that Dylan Sampson could be productive, probably regardless of where he lands, but definitely in Houston, which is why I wanted to talk about this pick.
No, and I think Jalen Wright, I don't know if I said this to you or someone, I call him the Stevie Wonder, like
Love
super
Jalen
talented.
Wright.
Can't see is what I see. Like,
well, we're gonna see if he can see this year, right?
I guess. Hopefully, I mean, now that Raheem Mostert's out of there, I don't think TreVeyon Henderson is off the table for the Dolphins. Just with Mike McDaniel, but it's the scheme fit, and that's like your boy TJ. I was like, he knows what he's talking about. I'm like, this is the ideal scheme fit, like it's because like Dylan. All my slander on Jalen Wright aside, Dylan Sampson is like, they're kind of polar opposites where I don't know if he has a high end juice. Dylan Sampson's the smartest. I think he is the most skilled player to come out of Tennessee since the new coach. What's his name?
The current coach, Heupel?
The current coach, Heupel.
Yep.
I almost said Butch Jones because, but yeah,
they're gonna come for your head.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say, I can't say that out loud.
Only Lane Kiffin would have been worse.
Where they named their sewage system, I remember. Dylan Sampson, I think he's the smartest player where like, I don't think Jalen Wright, he's an athlete, not skilled. Jalen Hyatt, top end speed, not skilled. Dylan Sampson is a skilled player. And to be able to do this outside scheme with the Texans, I would be way more in. And like, for me, I don't think I have a single Dylan Sampson share anywhere. Now that you're giving me the scenarios in my head, I'm like, maybe he like, how much is he right now in our Origins tournament? Where is he going? 17. That's pricey for me. I still can't do that. But I can't do it.
Okay.
Third round.
Then. Would you take Dylan Sampson in Houston or Cam to the Patriots? Given if you had to pick one of them to add to your Origins.
Dylan Sampson. You did.
You would,
got
right?
Me. You got me. It's not even a question because I know the fit. I know how they run their offense. They're not interested in sharing the backfield where the Patriots love getting cute, to say the least.
I don't even think it's cute. They're gross not. And they're still gross.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to watch, but we got a bunch of Super Bowl rings, so we're not allowed to complain. So, yeah, this was the one thing I came in hot, ready to disagree, and I'm like, this is a damn fine argument, Matt Olson.
I'm sorry, man.
No, don't be sorry. It was good. Thank you so much for coming on, man. We're going to end it right there. Like we said, we're going to be 6 players, 6 landing spots. And if you should buy or sell, Matt Olson's over at 32 Beat Writers. Like I said, they're actually in the trenches talking to the beat writers. And it's not just speculation. There's very few quality resources in this industry, in this space like them. So we highly encourage you. They're over there doing fast draft stuff. I'm going to have them on as much as they'll allow me over here. Love you, Matt. Come back anytime. I'll have links to your site and all your stuff down in the bios. As always, I'm Jagger May. That's Matt, and we'll see you next time.
So I thought I needed